Hey everyone, good evening. This is Hedgie. Hey Nagatron, welcome in. I'd also like to welcome Jake in. And yeah, Mav will be on soon. I know he's intending to come. So I am looking forward to that. So tonight, what I am going to be making is I'm going to be making spaghetti. It's spaghetti with a simple meat sauce and um, it's made with the recipe that is up on my Discord. So if you join my Discord, you can get all of my stream recipes. Everything I've cooked on stream so far is up there. And there's also pictures of it so you can see what it looks like. And you can catch my VODs for 2 weeks on my channel. And after that, you can find them on YouTube. And hi, Mitchie. Welcome in. Thanks so much for coming. Um, so you can get all my recipes there. There's pictures. You can talk with other people, get my latest updates on when I'll be streaming and what I'll be streaming. And if you have any requests for things you want to see me cook, you can put them into stream requests. There is also all the equipment that I use, well, for the most part. On stream is listed in stream equipment. So you'll see my camera and my camera mount. You'll see my pots and pans and things like that. Um, so basically, I'm going to be making what is about 80% of the sauce that I make with any kind of things, um, like lasagna and spaghetti, manicotti. All of these things use the same recipe basically. I will add and subtract things depending. I usually put eggplant in it because I like eggplant and it adds extra vitamins and minerals and helps bulk it all out. I always add mushrooms because, once again, I love mushrooms. Um, Sometimes I'll put in black olives and other additional vegetables. And uh, then it just depends on what kind of pasta you put it over. I prefer thin spaghetti if I'm making spaghetti. There's nothing wrong with thicker spaghetti. You could just as easily put it over fettuccine or linguine. Um, put it over spiral pasta or penne pasta. Stick it inside of manicotti, although for that I would add extra cheese to it. And I will be making manicotti probably later this month. I'm kind of going on an Italian food kick at the moment, so I'm going to make a couple different kinds of lasagna. You've already seen my breakfast lasagna if you were here on Saturday, and that was absolutely gorgeous. It was based off of biscuits and gravy, so it had uh, scrambled eggs and sausage country gravy and lots of cheese. And yeah, it was delicious, and now it is gone. Andrew enjoyed it very much. Actually, so did I. Um, but now I'm moving on to spaghetti, and I will get started with that. This is a spaghetti sauce that I just sort of developed over the years and like the flavor of. If I had been able to get more bell peppers, I would have put probably a red and orange bell pepper in here because it always adds a nice flavor to these sauces that goes really well with um, tomato sauces. So I am going to get this started cooking, and I have got, I can't do that. It doesn't really want to move over any further because of where the camera mount is. But there we go. So Now you can look at this. I will start out, that's 2.5 pounds of 80/20 ground beef, and that's ground chuck actually. Chuck is a really flavorful meat that comes off of the neck and shoulder of the cow. And so it has really good marbling in the most cases, and it's got some of the best flavor for low and slow cooking. So putting it in pasta sauces, um, making chuck steak or chuck roasts where they're cooked low and slow is just wonderful. Um, it's not the tenderest cut of meat unless you do cook it really long, um, or really fast at high temperature, and but it does have some of the best flavor. Hey there, Mav. How are you doing? Are you guys ready to go? I've been talking about my spaghetti sauce and that I'm going to be making it with the ingredients listed on my Discord in the recipe. So we're going to get started. I have got 2.5 pounds of 80/20 chuck, ground chuck here, and I will get that started. You want to not, I prefer to have it in larger chunks. I don't like it when it's more like the meat in a chili where it is really deeply um, broken up. So it's just sort of like really small uh, pieces of meat in there, um, kind of smaller than a pea. And I like bigger pieces of meat in my spaghetti and in my meat sauces. And I will add the seasoning to it now because it's always good to start out well. So I have got some sage here, and I am going to, I don't know why I bothered to leave that in there, but I am going to be measuring out a teaspoon of sage, and I could use a measuring spoon, but I do know what it looks like in my hand, so that's just the easiest way, and then I don't use a measuring spoon up. I'm going to use a teaspoon of sage. I am going to use I am missing something. I have oregano here. I do not have basil. I'm going to use a teaspoon of oregano. Oregano is really good anytime you're going to have a tomato sauce. It brings out a depth of flavor in the tomato, and it's just one of those ingredients that you taste it when you're having Italian food because almost everything has oregano in it. And thank you, sweetheart. I am now putting in about a teaspoon of crushed rosemary, and this is my rosemary grinder that I really need to see. I think it will actually is reloadable, but I don't see how. Okay, anyway, that's something to explore at a different time. And I am going to add a teaspoon of basil. And just to be clear, this is not sweet basil. It's different. Sweet basil is actually sweet tasting, and you can have that in some of like the sweet and spicy sausages, but primarily it's used a lot in Asian cooking. If you can't get your hands on Thai basil, sweet basil has the same flavor. So, uh, and it does add a sweetness. My sweater sleeves do not want to stay up. Okay, so I have got basil, oregano, I have rosemary in it, and now I am going to add parsley, and I add about a tablespoon of parsley to this. And hey, D-Rock, thank you for coming in. Welcome in, and nice to see you in here. I am going to add a little bit of pepper. Now, normally I would be adding a cup of wine to this at some point, but the wine I got was corked, so both bottles. Fortunately, we didn't buy it, but 2 bottles of wine were corked, and what that means is that a fungus has gotten into the wine, and although it's safe to drink, it tastes absolutely vile. It tastes moldy, it tastes sour. Um, it's not something that you want to cook with. The basic rule for a wine you want to cook with is don't buy cooking wine. Cooking wine has salt in it for one thing, and you don't need that. If you're going to put a wine in a food, make sure it's a wine that you want to taste. So if you don't like the taste of the wine, don't use it. Um, for a red sauce, for in this case, I would use a dry red, something like a Cabernet Sauvignon or a Merlot. Both of those are nice, dry, woody wines, and they really complement the flavor. You know, I could use my Merlot salt in this, honey. Um, anyway, I'll add that later. I got some seasoned salt from a company called the Salty Dog Spice Company, and they make assorted flavored salts, including a Merlot wine salt. No, when I say corked, they call it that because what happens is a fungus uh, gets into the wine from the cork, and okay, yeah. If the fungus gets into the wine and through a contaminated cork, and um, basically it makes the wine taste foul. And that is why a lot of wine, and the strange thing is, once they have corked wine, it can actually go out through the entire winery basically and contaminate all the corks, so they'll lose almost all of their wine, and that's just devastating. Um, when you take a wine that has a cork and you take it out and you drink it, or drink some of it and put the wine cork back in, that's fine. Um, after you do that, you should probably refrigerate your wine just to preserve the flavor longer. But what you have when it starts to taste like vinegar is the fact that it has oxygen in the wine then because you've opened it, and wine only lasts a certain length of time after it's been opened, and once it's been opened, you're on a timer basically. So um, it's best to drink your wine within the week. They have like these little wine vacuums that you can get that are a hand pump that you put over the wine, and it will suck the air back out of the wine so your wine will last longer even just on the counter. Um, they're not terribly expensive. It's about 20 bucks. If you drink a lot of wine, it's probably a good idea to get it. If you ask anywhere, uh, they can usually tell you what it is, and most liquor stores and grocery stores have them. So that's something to look at. And um, so our well, in that case, you don't have to worry about it, but we're not big wine drinkers here. I generally use it to cook with, or occasionally I get a bottle of Moscato wine, either red or pink, or even white for that matter. I like the taste of the sweet wines, so I also like Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc, which is made with the same um, grapes as the Cabernet Sauvignon, except they don't put the peels in it, so the um, wine doesn't turn red, and it's a very dry, woody white, and that's lovely. I like that paired with fish, salmon, halibut, cod, things like that. Um, haven't heard of that winery, but for making my sauce here, I usually would use a Cabernet Sauvignon or a Merlot or a wine blend of Cabernet and Merlot. So you get a Cab Merlot, about 60-40, and that's a real nice taste in your combined with beef. This is 2.5 pounds of beef in this. This is my 5-quart Dutch oven, and um, we use a lot of beef in our sauces. So um, this is a sweet onion, and I am going to be adding the sweet onion to this. I will also be adding an eggplant, and this is kind of an odd shaped sweet onion. They're usually more um, squat, but this is a more onion shaped onion. That's fine, doesn't really affect the flavor. And it's fairly mild, so that's good. Um, People say a lot of things about how to keep your eyes from watering and burning when you're dealing with onions. And good ventilation is one thing. They say if you refrigerate an onion, it doesn't make your eyes sting as much. Um, that may be true. I don't know. I've never refrigerated an onion. Um, I found basically one time I always had trouble with onions making my eyes burn and sting in water until my cousin Tara and I decided that we would make a huge batch of French onion soup. So we got 20 pounds of onions, and we used a mandolin, which is a very dangerous cooking implement that basically is somewhat like it's a fixed blade on a plate. It has a hole through it, and you would take the onion or other vegetables and you would take and run it up and down this um, plate, and it would cut the vegetable to the width you had the blade set with. But if you are not very careful with your hands when you do that, you can cut yourself very seriously badly. It's not uncommon for people to actually cut off the ends of their fingers. So it is a very dangerous device. I like their effect. They give me the willies. They now make them so that they have something that puts on the top of the vegetable and it holds it in place away from your hand. You're holding a handle and sliding the vegetable on it. And that works fairly safely, but it's still, I haven't had one last very long like that. So, and I did have a nice stainless steel one that didn't have a hand protector, and there were some very close calls on that of seriously hurting myself, and I just decided it wasn't worth it. Um, so I just cut my vegetables by hand. And we are going to be putting in a whole sweet onion. This is a medium-sized one. I would say medium to large is good. Depends on how much you like onion. We like onion in my family, so we have a tendency to put quite a bit of it in it. And I apologize for my froggy voice. I have a bit of a sore throat today, so I've been coughing just from low air quality here. And so my voice is a little hoarse. I'm going to take a sip of the tea my husband made me. Lovely tea. And then I am going to stir the meat around. You want to make sure that your meat is browned all the way through, that it doesn't have any rawness left. It makes the flavor better. I have seen people put um, their hamburger in and immediately add tomato sauce and basically boil the meat. And I mean, that's okay. It's a way to get it done, but you get more depth of flavor if you actually brown it like I'm doing here. So I'm not hearing music anymore. Did that turn off for some reason? Oh, I'm just fine, Tom. Don't worry about it. It's just the temperature turned cold and the air quality went to pot, and um, it just made it so I've been having some asthma problems, and yeah, it turned off. Um, anyway, there, I hear music again. All right, so I'm going to add the sweet onion to this shortly. And when you cut open an onion, you want to make sure that you don't see any big bruises. There are no soft spots. There's no dark discoloration in it. That means basically that your onion is no good and it will taste sharp. You can cut the bad spot out of it, but it's going to taint the flavor of the entire onion. So I prefer just to um, throw it away. I mean, onions are not expensive. Um, this is a sort of a medium to small eggplant, and it's just a standard eggplant. You want it to have a dark glossy color all over, this really deep purple. You don't want to see a lot of blemishes. There shouldn't be soft spots in it. And you don't want to be able to bend it. That means your eggplant is not great. Now there's the thought with eggplant, and it's kind of a myth in my opinion, that what you do with an eggplant is you cut it up, you salt it, you set it aside for 15 minutes, and then rinse it off, and the salt will draw out the bitterness in the eggplant. Um, Generally, what I find is then you have salty eggplant, and it doesn't really taste any less bitter. I think that um, eggplant is not a bitter vegetable by and large. You can get some bad ones. Um, if you find they're a little too strong for you with the peel on, take the peel off by all means. You can just use a vegetable peeler on it and it'll come off very easily. It's kind of on this kind of eggplant, it is a thicker skin. If you buy something like um, a Japanese eggplant, it has a very thin skin, so it has a milder flavor. There's less what people would call bitterness. I've never had a bitter eggplant in all the years I've eaten them. And after the first time I made them and salted it and didn't like the way the salt tasted in it. I just figured I'd go ahead since I was making it for myself. Oh, thank you for the bits, Jake. I appreciate that. Um, After the first time I did that, I then didn't salt the eggplant, and I was prepared for it to be bitter and nasty. The only thing I noticed in the taste is it wasn't salty. So, yay. um, if you want to go ahead and salt the eggplant, like a lot of people say to do, just a light dusting of salt over the eggplant. Every slice, set it aside for 15 minutes, and then rinse it. The salt will draw some of the liquid out of the eggplant. Um, I guess that's okay. I'm not really sure if that's necessary. I mean, if you're going to put it in a sauce, uh, it tends to absorb the liquid anyway, so it's not really what I would call a necessary thing to do to it. Um, But before I got distracted in my story, my cousin and I got 20 pounds of onions and we sliced them, and it made her entire house just reek of onion, and our eyes watered like crazy. And ever since then, I don't have that response to onions anymore. Um, I think it kind of burned it out of my eyes. So it was painful. I don't recommend it. Other things you can do if you don't want to have, if it really affects your eyes badly, use swim goggles. Um, that will also help. And because basically it keeps the oxygen away from your eyes so that the fumes from the onion can't get to them. So I see lots of people doing that actually. Um, I probably would too if the onions still affected me that way, but they don't. The thing with eggplant is you don't eat it raw, and if you don't have it well cooked, it's kind of tough. But if you cook it properly, if you cook it to a well done state, eggplant is tender and juicy and kind of has a texture um, a little like a mushroom. They can be, the pieces that have the skin on them can actually be mistaken for a mushroom in flavor and texture, I mean. Um, they have a lot of good nutrients in them, and I just love eggplants and tomato sauce. So I like making um, oven fried eggplant. I like putting it in my sauces. It makes really good pizzas if you use your eggplant as the base and put a little bit of your sauce on top of it and then some shredded mozzarella cheese. You do this on a cookie sheet and that you've sprayed. And then you put pizza toppings on it and cook it in the oven for 15 minutes on, oh, I think it's about 375, and that'll cook it all the way through. It will be tender, it will be wonderful flavored, and you have got a low carb pizza then. So that's something to think about when you're doing this. And I am gonna fill this pot all the way to the top again. I am so good at that. I never planned to do it, it just kind of works that way. I thought I'd maybe get this halfway filled, but the eggplant will cook down. I will say that. So the eggplant will reduce by about half. I even put the eggplant into my vegetarian chili I make, and um, I've also made the chili with beef in it, and it tastes just as nice. But the difference between my vegetarian chili and my non-vegetarian chili is the meat. I don't put tofu in it. It's just vegetables and beans and, you know, tomatoes and peppers and seasonings, and it's really good. I'll make that on stream sometime. Uh, so here we go. Let's get that keep going while I'm doing this. And I'm gonna finish putting the eggplant in here and then start on the portobello mushrooms. Now, I normally use sliced cremini mushrooms, which are baby bellas. No, I don't find cooking on an electric top more difficult than gas because I have rarely cooked on gas. I did for about 2 years when I was living in a travel trailer, and it had a propane stove with a gas flame, and um, it was harder for me to deal with because I grew up with the electric stovetops. And yeah, as Mav said there, I find that the electric stoves are more consistent. Hey, Geek Boy, welcome in. You're catching me making my spaghetti sauce for my spaghetti, and we are cooking down 2.5 pounds of hamburger and a sweet onion and an eggplant. I've got parsley and sage, rosemary, basil, and oregano in here. And I had intended to use wine in this, but unfortunately our wine was bad. Um, the bottles were basically contaminated, so they tasted nasty, smelled nasty. It was pretty vile, so we just dumped the 2 bottles of wine, basically trying to get a decent bottle to use a cup of wine for this, but to no avail. So I'm leaving that out, and instead I am using a product which I am not paid to hawk, but is a wonderful product. It's from the Salty Dog Spice Company, and they produce flavored sea salts. I've got one here that is lime sea salt that works really well with seafood. I have got a bourbon smoked sea salt, and that is just fabulous on steaks. And I've also got a Merlot sea salt, which I am going to be adding to my sauce here. So that will give the flavor of Merlot to it, which is lovely. And as I said, I normally would use a baby bella or what they call cremini mushrooms. If you let a cremini mushroom, which are about this big around, continue to grow, you get portobello mushrooms, which are huge. You see people using these to cook them as a meat substitute for burgers. They're excellent for stuffing, and um, they're a very earthy, meaty flavored mushroom. They actually will add a beef flavor to a dish that doesn't have beef in it, and they will heighten the taste of beef in one that does. So I really enjoy. Hey MPH, welcome in. Good to see you. Um, I am making my spaghetti with meat sauce, and it's got eggplants and portobello mushrooms in it. Um, like I said, I would normally use the cremini mushrooms, which are the baby bellas, but the grocery store didn't have any, so they subbed out portobello mushrooms. And um, that's fine. I would prefer it if I didn't have to dice these really small, but I'm going to have to in order to get them uh, cooked to the size I want it to be cooked at. And these are really lovely mushrooms, very meaty, and um, I use these primarily for stuffing. I have a recipe that is portobello mushrooms that I simmer in wine and herbs, and then I take and drain them, and I put them, uh, I take a Dungeness crab, and I will pick all the crab meat out of it, and I add that with, I add cream cheese and green onions and a little bit of mayonnaise and a little bit of Parmesan cheese, some salt and pepper, and that makes it so that you fill it with this, put it in the uh, put it in the oven on about 425, and you just broil the tops of the um, broil the top of the filling, and it lightly browns it, and it's just absolutely yummy. Um, let's see. So I am going to continue doing this. Sorry, I got a little distracted. One of my parents came out here, and my husband is dealing with them now. So they like my spaghetti too. They know that's what's for dinner, and they're wanting to know when it's going to be done. My husband and I have custodial care of my parents, and they're around 80, and yeah, I'm fine. It's just a bit of a distraction to have them come out here. So normally they don't. They know when I'm streaming, and they know our living room is basically taken up by my streaming equipment and table and cooking stuff, and there's really no room for anybody to sit down here. You can just basically walk past the back of my chair, and that's about it. And our living room is filled from one end to the other. You can say seriously small apartment. So, and like I said, I pretty much thought I was going to fill this pot completely, and guess what? I did. So, yay me. All right. So now I've got all of the mushrooms in there too. I'm going to move my cutting board off to the side because I don't need it anymore. And move this in a little bit. And we've got something else new on stream today. If you notice, I have a different tablecloth over my table. It's pink. It matches Pink Pig. So, or at least her tutu. And, oh, this is going to be so much fun to try to get sauce in this now too. Okay. So I have got this starting to cook down. I've got the onions and some of the eggplant is cooked. I need to rotate this so that the mushrooms also get in there. Pink pig! Pink pig! My Jake redeemed Pink Pig. All right then, here is Pink Pig's appearance. Pink Pig's a happy little pig, as you can see. Look at that little face. Pink Pig! Pink Pig! Yay! Pink Pig! Pink Pig dancing for y'all. Thank you! And that's my Pink Pig. You did hear Pink Pig. Andrew animated my voice saying Pink Pig because I can't seem to help myself going in falsetto. Okay, I want to keep this cooking. This is on a medium heat, really. It would be higher with another pot, but my Cuisinart hard anodized pot I have here heats up very well, keeps its heat across the board, and I can actually cook on lower temperatures, which is a nice energy saving. And it cooks evenly across the whole thing, so that's nice. And this is about 3/4 filled with my meat sauce and some mushrooms. I am going to add more mushrooms to this because I like lots of mushrooms in the spaghetti. So I added a 15-ounce can of mushrooms as well. I would normally have used about 16 ounces, so about a pound of mushrooms between that and a 24-ounce container. Now to add more flavor into this, I do use V8. It is a tomato and vegetable blend in a juice form, and it just really adds extra things in when I can't do it with my own seasonings, when I can't add my peppers and such in it. In case you didn't know, this has tomato juice, carrots, celery, beets, parsley, lettuce, watercress, and spinach in it. and it's got lots and lots of yummy vitamins in here. Um, and it just adds a really nice flavor. So I am going to add a 28-ounce can of crushed tomato with tomato puree because that adds a nice thickness to the sauce, because it's basically been just blended solid tomatoes. So it adds some nice bulk to your sauce. And so I will add that in. And I will use my spatula to scrape out the insides of that. And as you can see, that has a almost pudding consistency if you've never used it before. And I will use then a tomato sauce. I have made my own tomato sauces from scratch with um, um, I have made it from scratch, but it's the wrong season to do that. It has to be summertime. I like vine ripened tomatoes you get from um, farmers markets, or from our own garden, but I haven't had my own garden in years, so I don't get the opportunity to do that very often. I also add V8 to my meatloaf, and that keeps it very moist and flavorful, and I don't use ketchup on mine. I'll be making a couple different kinds of meatloaf for you all some point this year. And now I need to carefully stir this because it is all the way up to the top. Nothing has cooked down yet. And this is a 5-quart Dutch oven. And I have filled it all the way to the top. There's no way to get even another mushroom in here. It just isn't going to work. So this needs to now cook down, and I can answer, is Jack in here as well, Maverick? He hasn't said anything. If he is, I know Jake is here. This will make a very rich and flavorful tomato sauce. Of course, it will taste better tomorrow when the seasonings all marry in with the sauce. That's just the way it works. It'll taste really good tonight, but it will taste better tomorrow. That's the way it always works with your soups and your sauces. Um, So, other things I have added into my basic spaghetti sauce besides what you see in here, I usually like to put sweet bell peppers in, and that's not the green ones. Those are the ones that have ripened beyond the green. For those of you that don't know, bell peppers are one variety. That's just it. It doesn't matter what color it is. That's just the ripeness. They start at green, and then they go into yellow, and from yellow into orange, and then their sweetest variety, their sweetest stage of ripeness is red, and that is absolutely gorgeous in sauces. I put red, orange, and yellow peppers in my stuffed pepper soup, and I have made that on stream, and someone has actually taken and put that on their own website, my VOD for it from YouTube. I get full credit, but they didn't ask me. Um, Still, it gets it out there so people see it and are aware of it. And all right, now at this point, I just need to stir this a little bit every now and then, bring it to a simmer, and let that simmer into a nice sauce. It'll take about 20 to 30 minutes. And it will cook all of the vegetables down, and it will cook the meat and the sauces, and get everything just going together lovely. And then we will uh, be making the pasta. I'm not going to make pasta from scratch. Um, I could, but I just don't want to. Um, I'm still struggling with my health a bit, and I have been for about 3 months. Okay, so looking forward into the future, I have got the spaghetti I'm going to make. I am going to make my red lasagna at some point this month. And it uses basically the same sauce and lots of cheese. There's about 5 pounds of cheese in my lasagna and about 3 pounds of meat, so it's sizable. When I make mine, I have to use a solid baking pan. I can't use the little cheap ones because I have bent them before. Um, I am also going to make my white lasagna, which is a chicken lasagna that uses a mushroom cream sauce with a little bit of sour cream in it. It has chicken and, of course, mushrooms. It's got black olives. It uses a mix of mozzarella and Colby Jack cheese and cottage cheese. And I choose cottage cheese over ricotta to because ricotta doesn't melt and cottage cheese does. So when you combine the cottage cheese with the mozzarella, it gets nice and creamy and cheesy. It's just lovely. Um, I'll be making manicotti once again. It uses this basic sauce, lots and lots of cheese. And I make pans of that and we freeze them about 2 manicotti per serving. And that's a really nice, tasty sauce. You take this same sauce and you cool it down after you've cooked it and you mix it together with the cheese, with the uh, cottage cheese and the mozzarella, and then stuff that into your manicotti shells. Put a little layer of sauce down and then lay your manicotti shells in there. Ladle sauce over the top and then cover it liberally in cheese and bake, and oh, heaven. It's just lovely. Um, I will also be making uh, chicken fettuccine alfredo, and I will probably also be making pasta carbonara, which is a very simple pasta sauce which you take uh, your pasta and you don't drain it. You take and scoop it directly into your pan, and the starch that's on it. You take a little bit of the pasta, you whip some eggs, and then you take some of the pasta water and put it into the eggs to temper the eggs so they don't scramble. And you take and put that onto your pasta that you've chosen, usually spaghetti or I've seen people do it with tagliatelle, not often because that's a very wide uh, noodle. Um, I've seen it with linguine, but classic is spaghetti and um, has some cheese in it, and it's a really simple sauce made with egg and cheese and the starch from the pasta. It usually has pancetta in it, which is a pork product, so I'll be subbing that for a different bacon. I will be using a turkey bacon. And the very first food I ever cooked for my husband was a variation on that. Actually tempted to do that one again. It was a seafood pasta carbonara, and it had uh, medium-sized shrimp in it, and it had smoked salmon, baby spinach. It had pancetta, once again subbing that for a turkey bacon. And or if I can find some salmon bacon, I might use that instead. Lots of cheese in that one, and it was just an amazing, amazing dinner. And I went all out on that first dinner I cooked for my husband before we were married. This is actually the night he met my oldest brother and his family, and that was uh, 24 hours after he'd come in the country, so he was majorly jet lagged, but he had a good time with that. Um, it was really good food. It was amazingly good. We made about 2 gallons of it, basically 2 pots this size. Salmon bacon, yeah, salmon bacon is a thing. You make it with the salmon belly, and it is smoked and cured, and it has a bacon-like consistency, but and it's very smoky flavored. There is a seafood taste to it too, but yeah, it's salmon bacon. It's lovely stuff. Kind of hard to get. It's kind of a regional specialty. Um, I come from, and we are living in the Seattle area. Give it a look. See if maybe you can find it on Amazon. Amazon has some pretty amazing food products they have these days that they can get. So that's definitely some place to look for it. And yeah, salmon bacon's incredible. Um, I'm pretty sure with the way the market is these days that they probably do have it. But yeah, look it up on the internet. You could probably find it somewhere. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's going to be my Italian dishes. I may slip in some um, 5 cheese tortellini with some sort of sauce. Haven't made up my mind on that one yet. I may even make that into a soup. And chicken and mushroom soup with 5 cheese tortellini. That would be pretty yummy. And I'm trying to do things with a little less mushrooms because our mushroom market lately has really been awful. Lots of times they just don't have them, so I've had to use canned mushrooms. Um, let's see. I am going to be making chicken a la king. I promised to make that uh, this last month, but I had to cancel those streams because I wasn't feeling well. Um, every time I started feeling better, I pushed myself, and uh, that was bad. So then I usually had to cancel a stream. I went about a month without streaming, and that wasn't the greatest. Honey, at this point, I'm going to ask you to make the pasta, and I'm going to have that done in the kitchen because boiling pasta isn't really anything exciting. You just boil the water, have a little bit of salt in it, and you put the amount of pasta that you're going to use in it and follow the directions. For spaghetti, it's usually 9 to 11 minutes, and then you drain it, and it's done. Um, that is so rudimentary. I really don't think that you need to be shown that. Now, some people like to use really, really lean meat, and that's great if you're going to be watching your cholesterol or need to watch your cholesterol. You could make this with ground turkey. You could make this with ground chicken. Those are other options. Some people would make their spaghetti with pork, a mixture of pork and beef. I'm allergic to pork, so that never happens. And even before, my spaghetti was always done with tomato sauce and beef. We just always did that. I've made some vegetarian versions, which just have a lot of tomatoes and mushrooms and um, bell peppers and onion, and I've even put things like zucchini in it, and those all work really well. But I'm going to turn my heat up a little bit more. I don't have a lid on this, so it's kind of resisting doing more than just a slightest simmer. Um, if anybody has a request for things that they'd like to see me cook, If they have a soup they've always wondered about, or if they want to see me do some variations on something I've already done, I'm up for that. I have a chicken mushroom chowder that when I can get all the mushrooms that I want to put in it, uh, I will make that for you all. I've got a mushroom stew that is vegetarian. The thing is it uses several different kinds of mushrooms. It will use cremini mushrooms and white button mushrooms, straw mushrooms, um, maitake if I can get my hands on it, oyster mushrooms or wood ear, hen of the wood, um, and it's all in a vegetable broth with onions and carrots and celery and lots of other things. It's just a lovely mushroom soup. You could at that point make it cream of mushroom by uh, just adding a white sauce to it or just adding cream to your soup if you don't want it to be thick. And that is definitely something you can do. I have a good recipe for that. Uses nice fresh thyme. And Kate's requesting clam chowder. I can definitely do clam chowder. I can do a seafood chowder. I can also do an oyster stew, or um, I actually intend to do a cod chowder. I've got the cod for it now. I just need to uh, get the rest of the ingredients for that. And I make a good scallop chowder too. That's um, actually easier to get my paws on than good clams, but I'll give it a shot. I'll see if I can find some razor clams to make the chowder out of. Razor clams are called that because they look like a straight razor. They are probably about 5 inches long, and 5 or 6 inches long, and they're narrow, and they uh, have a clam that comes out of it that's about this long, but only about as big around as your finger. And they have incredible flavor. They grow here in the beaches in the Pacific Northwest. Um, they tend to be very expensive in restaurants because they're just that good. Um, sure, Tom, that's great. I'd be more than happy to show people how to make different things. As you know before, you requested lasagna. I'm going to be making several different kinds of lasagna because I know to several different kind. And let's see, some other things I'm thinking of making is if I can get the kidneys, I'm thinking of making steak and kidney pie. So that's a very yummy dish, although a lot of Americans go, kidneys, ew. Um, Kidneys are tasty. A lot of the organ meats are really tasty, and steak and kidney pie is something that is extremely popular in England. Most of the UK-based countries absolutely love it. So you see it in uh, Australia and Ireland and Scotland. You see it in Canada. This is better than lasagna? Really? Okay. Well, it's definitely got less cheese. Some people put grated Parmesan over the top of their spaghetti. I don't. I prefer it without the cheese, oddly enough. And I'm just stirring this to make sure that the vegetables that are on the bottom get to move to the top, and the top vegetables get to move to the bottom where there's more heat so that they all will cook. And um, it's got some nice heat going in it now. And I will need to taste the sauce to see its seasonings. Do I have any spoons? Yep, I have 1 spoon. So I'm going to put it here in the middle. Yeah, that's getting to be very nice. It still has a raw tomato taste to it, so you need to cook that out. But I can taste the basil and the oregano, and um, I can taste the beef and the mushrooms. I'm now going to put a little bit of this Merlot salt over it, which will not only add salt to it, which it needs, but it will also add the flavor of Merlot. So, because they actually make their sea salt with Merlot and they dry it out. So you are. Is somebody knocking on the front door, honey? I think I'm hearing somebody knock on the front door. Can you hear that? Okay. Maybe it's someone in the other apartments then. Well, I wasn't expecting anything, but you never know. Okay. Now I'm going to mention this because we are fundraising for the stream, for stream improvements. I'm going to taste this again. Mm. I can taste a hint of the Merlot in it, which is lovely. Um, this needs to cook a bit longer, but it's. I'm actually going to add a bit more oregano to it as well. It needs a bit more depth of the tomatoes. So I'm adding about another quarter teaspoon of oregano to it. And it's an individual thing. Sometimes the sauces need a teaspoon, sometimes they need a little bit more. It just kind of depends on the batch. So the sauce should be ready, full cooking time, about a half an hour. You don't want to boil your sauce just because that really doesn't do anything but give you the possibility of burning it. Um, Simmering is what you're looking for. You're looking for an active simmer. And I can see that around the edges, but I haven't quite got it going all through. That's fine. It can finish cooking in about the length of time it's going to take to finish the pasta that Andrew is boiling water for. And if I get a little distracted, it's because I can hear my parents kind of talking and roaming around, and I don't really want them to bomb the stream. Um, we all need to keep this on any funds would keep us all hungry. Big batch of soup like or pasta like this, it's going to be 2 pounds of pasta. That's going to be a lot of spaghetti. This will make an abundant dinner for us and lunches, and this is probably 3 or 4 days worth of food. Um, Although we've eaten all of the uh, breakfast lasagna that we made, we still have some of the stuffed pepper soup that I made a few days ago, and that's still in the refrigerator. And by now it's a it about looks like this. It's between the rice swelling up in it and the amount of meat and vegetables we have in it. It's very thick. It's more like a stew, um, which is kind of how I like things. I do have some soups that I make that are thin, but by and large, I tend to focus on the fill your belly, um, comfort food type things. going to clear some of these things to the side because my husband is going to want to come out here with the pasta. Now, the way you want to serve this, you can't quite see it. There you go. Let me see the pasta to taste. Okay. It's done. The pasta is al dente, which means to the tooth. And what that means is that there's still a slight bit of resistance, although all of the pasta is fluid and soft, but it's not so soft that it's just mush and there's no resistance at all when you chew it. Now, you don't want to have um, resistance like that, which is basically overcooked pasta. That's just mealy and unpleasant. Mm. Yep, that's going to be good. Hold on. I will put this up here for it. Okay. So now we have a giant keg of pasta here, and I am going to, the pasta sauce is done now, the vegetables are all cooked and combined, and it doesn't taste like raw tomatoes anymore, which is good. And now the way we like to serve this is we mix it all in with the pasta. We don't pile the pasta on the plate and then just put the sauce over it. You certainly can. There's nothing wrong with that. It's personal preference. We just like to have it all mixed together. And we always make sure it's a little on the sloppy side because your pasta, as it sits there in the refrigerator and goes overnight, it will absorb all of the liquid that's in your sauce. And you'll end up with a very flavorful spaghetti, but it's also very dry. And if that happens, you can add another 15-ounce can of tomato sauce to it, or add some more V8 to your individual serving as you reheat it. And as you can see, this has got nice big chunks of meat in it and big chunks of vegetables. And I've got about half of the sauce in it now, and I will take a pasta fork, which is a very sturdy fork. It's white, it has teeth, and it will allow me to mix my pasta with my sauce. I'll show you the finished product. It's not really very entertaining to just watch me stir it. And the idea is that you lift the pasta from the bottom and mix the pasta sauce all through it. And definitely needs more sauce. And I am pretty much down to just the liquid now, a little bit of the vegetables and meat. So now I can pour that in over the top. Okay. So this at this point is probably about 5 pounds of meat and pasta and sauce. And normally it's my husband's job when I make spaghetti to do the stirring and combining because it gets to be a little heavy and my arms are a little short. But, all right, now we have a complete pot of spaghetti. I am going to get my new bowls that I have for this, that have handles in them. And I have got 2 bowls here. And these are nice 24-ounce bowls that are oven safe. They're actually designed for making French onion soup in. So we take our pasta. And got a nice, please head them off, honey. They're coming out here. Mom and Dad are on their way out here. That's a bit much for me, but it's such a pretty color in here. Okay, so I have got Pink Pig is now hovering over the food. I am going to get some of the extra sauce to put in here so that it's nice and moist. And yep, some of the extra sauce in here. And let me see if I can get something like a big chunk of mushroom. There we go. Nice mushroom for on top of that one. And now what we have here are 2 containers of spaghetti. And if you want to give me, that's a big spoon, where's the forks? Okay, if you want to give me my thing, I will take some pictures of it. Hopefully with this out of the way, not casting a shadow anymore. So I am going to take a picture here of my spaghetti. And then I'll get a picture of the other spaghetti because I don't know which one's more photogenic. That one looks like it's going to be more photogenic. So here we have my spaghetti with lots of meat in it, and eggplant and mushrooms, portobellos and white buttons, and lots of meat and herbs. And now I will have my husband try a spoonful or a bite. I don't know where he went. bite to taunt you all with. There you go, honey. Give it a try for everybody. Show them a nice fork of it so they can see how nice and chunky it is. Yum, 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 yum. And he can give you his review of it. I am going to use the other fork and take my own bite to give you my take on it. I'm going to add a little bit more of the Merlot salt, just as a light sprinkling over the top. Food good, nom nom. The pasta is cooked perfectly. It's al dente. It has big chunks of meat through it. It is rich with the tomatoes and vegetables that are in it. The eggplant is tender. The mushrooms are tender. And you can taste the oregano and basil in it, and it's just lovely. I must say, this is a really good batch. Um, I hope that you enjoyed watching it. Kate's already boiling noodles. Yeah, the beef is lovely. It's nice and seasoned. Every bite of this is seasoned, and that's just fabulous. Um, let's see. We have nobody that I know of as cooking at this point. Let us give a raid to, let's see if Babadinator is actually playing or if he is just coming up. He is from the Long Dark community, and we'll see if he's actually playing or just winding up to it. Nope, he's actually playing. So we're going to raid the Babadinator, and he actually named himself after a computer guy named Babbage. Anyway, thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate the bits. I appreciate your taking your time out of your evening. Once again, you can find the recipe for this on my Discord, and I'll be posting the pictures of it too. And I hope to see you guys Thursday night when I'm going to try to fit in another stream before Saturday. And thank you all for coming. Let's